What if you had a complete step-by-step guide for your own mental and ethical development? And what if it wasn't from some modern guru, but from one of the Buddha's closest, most trusted disciples? Well, today we're unpacking an ancient dialogue that gives us exactly that.
And this isn't about some abstract philosophy. We are about to discover a truly timeless and practical roadmap for training the mind, a guide that's been preserved for over 2,500 years.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story begins in ancient India, in a place called Savatthi, and it's just a short time after the Buddha's passing. A young, brilliant scholar named Subha goes to see Ananda, the man who was the Buddha's attendant for decades, and, had probably heard more of his teachings than anyone alive. And Subha has one really crucial question for him.
He basically asks, what was it all about? What was the real core of the teaching you spent your life hearing? What did the Buddha really emphasize as the path forward for all of us? And that question right there is what drives this entire explainer.
And Ananda's response, it wasn't some complex creed or a list of beliefs you just had to accept on faith. Nope. Instead, he laid out this incredibly practical, structured, and complete system of training, a path to be walked, to be lived. He broke it all down into 3 core areas.
So Ananda presents the entire path using these 3 interconnected pillars, or khandhas, in the Pali language. First, you have sila, which is ethical conduct. Then comes samadhi, which is all about concentration and mental discipline. And finally, panya, or wisdom. So let's dive into them one by one.
We're going to start with the foundation, right? The very ground that everything else is built on. Sila, ethical conduct. This is where the whole journey begins, by creating a life of integrity and really of harmlessness. Ananda describes this beautiful, natural progression. It starts when you hear the teaching and you gain this real confidence in it. That inspires you to simplify your life, to kind of step away from all the complexity and harm. You commit to kindness for all living things. And the result of all this? It's a deep inner happiness, a joy that comes from knowing you're living a good, blameless life. And to describe this feeling, Ananda uses this really powerful simile. He says that a person who is secure in their ethics feels a kind of fearlessness. It's like a king who has completely defeated all his enemies and secured all his borders. There are no threats from the outside, and because your conscience is clear, there are no threats from the inside either. Just this profound sense of security. Now, as you can imagine, Subha is pretty amazed by this description of ethical joy. But Ananda tells him there is more to be done. And this is such a key insight. Living ethically isn't the end goal. It's the stable foundation you need so you can turn inward and start the real training of the mind itself. And that is samadhi, or concentration.
This training also has very clear steps. It kicks off with guarding the senses, not getting swept away by everything you see and hear. Then you bring in mindfulness and a clear comprehension of what you're doing. This is all supported by a sense of contentment, just being okay with simplicity. And all of this work prepares the mind to face its biggest obstacles, the 5 hindrances.
The text doesn't just list these mental obstacles out. It gives them these incredibly vivid metaphors so we can really feel their effect on our minds. These are the states that cloud our thinking and just make deep focus impossible. You've got sensual desire, ill will, dullness, restlessness, and doubt. Okay, so the first one, sensual desire, is compared to being in debt. Just think about that constant nagging pressure. So when the mind is finally free from this, it feels the incredible relief and joy of being debt-free. Ill will? That's like having a chronic illness. It just drains your energy and colors your whole world with pain. So overcoming it is like recovering your health, feeling vibrant and full of life again. Next up, sloth and torpor, that heavy mental dullness. It's described as being locked in a prison. You feel like you can't move, you can't act, you're trapped. So freedom from it is just like being released, finally able to move and engage with the world. Then there's restlessness and worry. The text compares this to being a slave. Your mind just isn't your own. It gets dragged from one worry to the next, and it can never rest where you want it to. To be free from that is to become your own master again. And finally, we have skeptical doubt. This is like being lost on a dangerous journey through a desert. There's no clear path, dangers are everywhere. So overcoming it is like finally arriving in a safe, secure land where the way forward is totally clear. So once these 5 hindrances are temporarily put aside, the mind can access these really powerful states of meditative absorption or concentration. They're called jhana. The first one is described as this joyful enthusiasm that just fills the entire body, kind of like how a skilled bath attendant works water into soap powder until it's completely saturated. As the concentration gets deeper, the joy becomes more subtle, more profound. The second jhana is like a deep, still lake that's fed by a spring from within. It doesn't need any external input. The third is like a lotus, born and raised completely underwater, just saturated through and through with cool, tranquil happiness. The peak of this training is the fourth jhana, and here the mind is said to be completely still and pure, beyond even happiness and sadness. The simile they use is a person covered from head to toe in a pure white cloth, just a perfect, bright, clear equanimity. And here's the crucial point. This highly concentrated, clear, stable mind, that's not the final goal. It's the tool. It's the perfectly sharpened instrument you now get to use for the final pillar, banya, the development of liberating wisdom. This is where it gets really amazing. The text shows how this purified mind can now see things as they really are. First, it can see the link between the body and consciousness, like seeing a colored thread running through a flawless crystal. Next, it can understand the nature of the mind itself, like skillfully drawing a reed from its sheath without breaking it. And finally, it can directly know the end of all mental pollutions, with the clarity of seeing every single pebble at the bottom of a calm, clear pool of water. And at this point, Ananda's familiar line changes. After explaining ethics and concentration, he kept saying there is more to be done. But now, after explaining the dawn of wisdom, he declares that the path is complete. For the person who's accomplished this, there is nothing further to be done. And with that, our story comes full circle. The young scholar, Subha, who came looking for an answer, is just completely inspired. He exclaims, "Excellent! It's as if you have set upright what was overturned, or revealed what was hidden." The sheer clarity of this threefold path inspires him to commit to it right then and there. So this ancient roadmap, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, is laid out before us. It's this incredible, integrated system where ethics supports concentration, and concentration sharpens the mind for wisdom. So the question for you is, when you look at your own life right now, which of these 3 pillars feels most relevant or most needed for your own journey?